In our first story, President Denkyira Kyekyewere has attributed the successes chalked by his government in his first year in office to his resolve to do things differently, insisting he has kept his promise to protect the public purse. The first year of the administration has been dogged by, among others, allegations of corruption leveled against some of his high-profile appointees and the large size of his government. The president, however, told journalists at his second media encounter since he assumed office that there was sample evidence that his administration has performed creditably, especially with the fight against corruption.
There were 592 requests made for restricted tenders, and 587, 99.15%, were approved, and there were 5 rejections. A grand total of 0 savings was made through the procurement process. In 2017, our first year in government, 394 sole sourcing requests were made, out of which 223, that is 56.6%, were approved, and 171, 43.6%, were rejected. There were 346 requests for restricted tenders, and 167, 48%, were approved, and 179, 52%, were rejected. Now, here is the interesting part. The savings made over the year as a result amounted to 145 million cedis, $142 million, 1.8 million euros, and 22,400 pounds sterling. As my old mathematics teacher used to say, you cannot argue with figures, and such figures surely provide the incentive to open up government procurement.
And the president said government, after an audit, rejected over 5 billion cedis in claims being made on government after they were found to be without merit.
We are resisting the temptation to award contracts when funds are not available to pay for the certificates as they come up. Those who conduct business with government will find that things are being done differently. We've had to subject 8 billion cedis of arrears bequeathed to us at the beginning of 2017 to a process of audit review and validation. The audit service has certified payments to the tune of 5.5 billion cedis and rejected about 5.7 billion cedis, representing a potential savings of 51% on these outstanding commitments. This shows the validity of our criticism that so much of contracts awarded in the Mahama era were inflated and apparently in some cases non-existent. I have promised to protect the public purse, and I'm doing just that. Those who have done honest work and at honest rates for the government will get paid, and paid on time, so their profits do not get swallowed up in bank interests and thereby threaten the collapse of their businesses.
And he says, though the appointment of the special prosecutor may not completely eliminate corruption, he is hopeful that it will deter his appointees.
Aware of the general sense of anxiety in the country and the strong feeling that politicians tend to get away with corrupt practices. A significant choice, though that Mr. Amidu is, I do not expect that he will provide all the answers, will deal with the phenomenon of corruption by public officials. But I do believe that at the least, the office will remove the fear of partisan prosecution and begin to put the fear of God in all public officials who are intending to go down the path of corruption. I've made it publicly known that anyone who has information about acts of corruption against any of my appointees should bring it forward and should be prepared to back it up with evidence.
Well, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo also explained he remains convinced that nothing untoward happened in the cash for seats scandal.
Who won the expatriate for the business person has been a client of mine for over 35, nearly 40 years. His father was a good friend of my own father, and he himself has become a very close personal friend of mine. I've known him, and I eat in his house. He eats in my house. He has my telephone number. I have his. Even since I became president, I've eaten in his house a couple of times. He's also been to my house. One of the reasons I've eaten in his house is that he lays the best Lebanese food in Accra, and I love Lebanese food. So anybody who invites me to Lebanese food, I go. He happens to be. And this, now, I'll be amazed if somebody like that, Said Fakri, will think that he needs to pay money to come and sit next to me. This is a man who can get me on the telephone anytime of his choosing, who sees me, who comes to my house, and whose house I go to. But nevertheless, the accusation has been made, so it is being investigated. I see my part of the problem I have in this very broad commitment that I have made, can sometimes, but the genuineness, always the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We will see how the special prosecutor conducts himself. We will see whether investigations that are mounted and serious charges against people whom I've appointed, whether they are brushed under the carpet, or all of these things are matters that will unfold. And I think it's in an area whereby actions will speak louder than words.
Well, so we'll have great discussion on this subject too when we have our guests in the studio, but let's move on. It is unusual to hear traditional leaders, especially in rural Ghana, where they uphold culture and custom so high, to turn to the church for answers to spiritual afflictions, and they will rather pour libation to evoke the spirits of their ancestors in times of distress. But for Chiefs at Kyekyewere in the Upper East Denkyira municipality of the Central Region, the gospel holds their key to their survival. They opted for prayer and fasting to halt what they believed were mysterious deaths in the community. Prince Apia witnessed a special service of such nature in the town to seek God's intercession.
A group of young men, together with some traditional leaders, prepared the grounds for the 4-day prayers and fasting in Kyekyewere. It is Sunday, and Nana Menu is trekking 7 miles or just about 10 kilometers from his community to be part of the prayer session. This is how much premium the people of Kyekyewere and surrounding communities place on a special service.
7 miles.
I am Nana Menu. I am from Kontokrom. I have walked 7 miles for these prayers because we want development in communities here.
The Methodist School Park goes agog with intense prayers to God to sanctify the community. So, in a community such as Kyekyewere, noted for upholding the culture and tradition of their ancestors, as the taboo that bans girls from crossing the Ofen River on Tuesdays, few years ago they witnessed mysterious deaths in this particular community. But as expected, people will think they would resort to gods for answers. But now they are resorting to Jesus Christ, prayers and fasting. Nana Ntiamweje Kum II is Kontihene of Denkyira Kyekyewere.
of this occasion is that previous years there was some serious death and those things in this community. So the elders of this town decided that it's only God who can help us to break all these hindrances for us. So last year around this time like this, we gathered here as you've come here to see now and pray to God. And during that time, as I'm speaking now, the death rate has reduced. So
Nanejekum believes God will listen to their cry.
People think, or Ghana, they think it's only ghosts that this thing our ancestors or our chiefs depends on. So we are on this platform wanted to prove to the general public and the whole nation that we chiefs, we don't depend on ghosts. It's time we have to change our community here, or the people here in Kyekyewere. We are arising with a great vision that we should stand up and build.
Funerals in this community are held once every month. Since the annual prayers were instituted last year, the people claim frequent deaths has reduced from an average of 4 a month to 0 in some instances. Authorities say they will sustain it to address challenges to development and progress in all participating communities. Prince Apia reporting.
In other news, more than 100 children with special needs who are based in Kumasi are to receive charity and an initiative to bring relief to the vulnerable. Local NGO Pregnancy Stress Foundation is enrolling these children on health insurance and also paying their medical bills. Love FM's Kwesi Debra reports.
Good girl.
Black balls filled with tufts of hairs. Denkyira Kyekyewere is only at home on her mother's lap. Denkyira, presently unemployed, has to be around always to take care of her child, else no one would. I gave birth on Saturday, she says. The nurse told me she has never seen a child of that before. They didn't even bath her. They just wrapped her and gave her to me. I don't have a condition like this in my family. Before I go out, I cover almost every part of her body. The boils sometimes get painful. Doctors are yet to diagnose her condition. Though she is 2 years, her mother can't enroll her into any preschool center. When I'm walking around or sit in the bus, the children will ask their mothers, "What is this? What is this?" So I'm afraid to send her to school. Denkyira is left with only one option: plastic surgery. That is even possible when her daughter is of age. Pregnancy Stress Foundation is helping mothers like Denkyira to cope with such situations. The program, in its 4th year, has been giving hope to over 1,500 children. At an annual get-together, the organization decided to put smiles on the faces of beneficiaries. Victoria Dakon is project director.
PSF Ghana's door is open to everybody. We are asking government that there should be a major project, because when it comes to economic empowerment, we empower women in different areas. But then when it comes to supporting these special needs babies and their parents, we look down upon them because we think there is no future for them. But then PSF Ghana is hoping that this project will fish out so many children, and then we will support these children to come on board, and then together we can raise them up, because some of them have major talents that if really care is being given to them, they can do something to support the society.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
The multimedia group has donated proceeds from its Thanksgiving service to the Teshi Children's Home, and the service was organized on Friday to thank God for a successful 2017 and also ask God for a great year 2018.
It was a gesture to bless underprivileged children of the Teshi Orphanage in Accra. The Multimedia Group Limited, as part of its annual Thanksgiving and corporate social responsibility on Wednesday night, donated assorted items worth thousands of cedis and an undisclosed amount of money. For Chief Human Resource Officer at the Multimedia Group, Nana Mbro Elegwa, the gesture is the first in the series.
For us, purely and simply, it is a direction from God. And at Multimedia, our slogan is Christ at Work. So this is part of what we do. We believe that Christ is at work. And one of the commands of Christ is that we should be able to take care of the fatherless in society. Why Teshi Orphanage? We looked around, we thought that yes, even in the center of the city, it is possible that there will be less privileged people. Oftentimes the focus is on villages outside of Accra and all that, but we decided that first Jerusalem, okay, before Judea. So we looked within Accra and we thought that a place like Osu is always in the news for the donations that they receive. You hardly ever hear of Teshi. So we decided to come in here. Once we have started this, it is something that we intend to continue, and God be our help.
On their part, authorities at the Teshi Orphanage expressed gratitude to the Multimedia Group, adding that the items donated will enable the managers of the home meet certain critical needs.
We thank Multimedia very much because these items are going to take us far, at least like the name stipulates, Teshi Children's Home. We have challenges so far as the feeding fees, because some go to private. We have all sort of children here. Not all are good, so some are learning vocation and then training in the skills. All those things you have to pay. At the same time, we have to feed them. Teshi as a community is a big community, and unless if we happen to be getting this, then we know our home is safe.
Usually, organizations like these have some infrastructural needs, from beds, dining halls, toilets, and other sanitary facilities. The orphanage is no different.
One thing is that with them going to other schools is our problem, but should we get a school within to be something that we appreciate most? But for now, we are managing them. We are appealing to other firms and organizations that under their social responsibilities, they should try and then visit us so that they keep this home very safe and then enjoyable.
The Teshi Orphanage, which was set up in 1995, has catered for many and currently hosts 22 children.